Hey you, and welcome. In this video, we will talk about Firestore pagination. Pagination is a concept in any application where you have too many records of list and you want to paginate them so you don't have to list them all out at once, make it easier on the user, make it easier on the server, and reduce your cost. So let's dive right into it. For this, I will first start working with the UI. So if I go to root.tsx, scroll down, I have my input for search, I have my contacts. Right under the contacts, I will start a button, and this button would say load one more of 0. Let's just hard code this for now, submit, save this in the drawer. Now I see the button. Let's make this a width of 100%, save. And also let's wire up onClick event, handle load one more, and go up here before the return handle one more will be an empty function like so. Save. Perfect. So what that means, what I want to do is I want to only load one record at a time to show the pagination function working. And what I want to do is every time I press load one more, I should load one more out of that list. Also, when there's nothing more to show, if there's no more records, this button should disappear. So that's the feature I want to work on. All right, so let's take a look at how we can implement that. I'll go over to my contact context, and inside the handle fetch for the query, I will start limiting my query to only one record. This limit function is coming from Firebase Firestore, so that's where I'm importing that from. And I will do comma right there, save. So that should only load one record at a time. Next, I want to get the count of how many records for the current query can I get back. So in order to do that, I have to break up my query a little bit. The query function takes many functions inside it as arguments, so one after another, and they go in the order of precedence. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to break it up into an array of queries. So let's say let's call this filter. It will be an array of Firestore functions that we're working with, and this array will be spread out like so right before the limit. So that should continue working the way it is working right now. But what it does now for me is I can make another query happen. So let's say contact count, call a query, provided the same ref and filter, spread those out. And using this count, I can say get count from server, which is coming from Firestore, pass it the query that I want to work with, and await this total count, and that should give me the query back. And here I can now bring this total count to the state. So let's start a new state up top. Use state. This will start with 0, so that means initially there will be 0 contacts loaded. Work with the array, call it total, set total, and let's call set total right after set context. Let's call it right there. Set total right there, and then we'll call total count dot data, which is the function count. So that's how we can set total. Let's render this out to our UI so we can see how it works. So let's go to, we cannot pass it to root just yet. We haven't made it part of our context API. So let's go up to our documentation. We will provide you a total, which will be a number. Initially, the total would be 0. And then, I'm not putting semicolon, I'm supposed to put comma. And if I scroll all the way to the bottom where the values are, I can just pass total like so. And this is getting the information from our state variable that we're setting. All right, save that. If I go to root.tsx, I can destructure total out of our context like that. If I scroll further down, let's render that out in our JSX as a JavaScript. Take away the 0 and pass total. There we are. And if I scroll, open the drawer, I can see that there are 4 records. However, only one of them showing. That means if I click on load one more, it should load one more record for me. But they shouldn't really say 4. It should be one more of 3 because Julia's already loaded. That means 1 minus 3. So how do we do that? So I'll go back to my contact context, and where I'm setting the total, I will minus this out from docs snapshot.size. So that way, whatever I've loaded, minus that out based on what is the total on the database, that should give me the number I'm looking for, which is 3. Now with the total count showing, let's make a little bit of a refactor. I want to move away from doing this extra step of for each and putting this item in the array and then setting the array of set contacts. Instead, what I want to do is just put all the document snapshots that we get into set contacts. And then I'll have to do a little bit of refactor on the root.tsx side as well. So let's quickly do that. I'll take away the array, and in the set contacts, instead of passing an array, I will pass docs snapshot.docs. So that's an array. Take away this extra step, and let's change our TypeScript. So set contacts, instead of set contacts being iContact type, I'll make it any type. I'm not gonna TypeScript that portion. So I'll go ahead and save. This will break our app, I believe. Yeah, there we go. I'm not able to see the name. And the reason for that is because in root.tsx, we are destructuring contacts, and we're using that down here, mapping through it. And we're expecting the contact to have name, ID, and contact name again. So what I'll do is just call contact.data. That's the function, and just destructure name out of that. And the reason why it's complaining is because our TypeScript on contact context, if I scroll up, still says the context type that we will provide you would be iContact. So I'll just change it to any. That's our state right now. So if I go back, the error message goes away. That's just a hacky solution. Of course, if you would want to type it, strictly type it, that's okay. Sometimes I just opt out of these things. So I'll just say contact.data and contact. In this case, contact.id would work, I believe. So let's go ahead and save and go back to my drawer, and I can see Julia's there. And if I click, it's working. So contact.id was the correct way to do it. And contactdata.name, that's the way to get the name. All right, with that done, let's go back to contact context and scroll down to handle fetch. So the reason why I did that is because we want to start working with a function called start at or start from or start after, I believe. And start after would take in a document object provided to you with the last bookmark. So you can say from this document object, give me the next one available. So we can keep doing load one more, one after another. All right, so let's see how we can do that. So to make that work, I have to accept a optional parameter now, load one more optional parameter, call it Boolean. And when it's set to true, I want to change my query slightly. I will start by creating a new const, call it pagination, which will be an array. And this array would have start after, which is a function from Firestore. And we will have to pass it the last document that we have from Firestore. That's stored in context state, which is an array, and context.length -1 should get me the last item in that array, and that should be my query. However, I only want this query to work when load one more is true. So if load one more, do this. If not, give me an empty array, and I'll use this pagination to add that to my filter array. So that's how I can keep adding to my query by using arrays. So I'll save that. Once that's saved, I do have to pass handle fetch now as an API, so my load one more button can trigger it. So let's pass that down, handle fetch. If I scroll up to the top where my documentation is, let's pass handle fetch as is. It will take load one more as a param, which is a Boolean type, and it will return nothing, which is a void. It is an async function, so let's make it a promise like that. And handle fetch over here will be, initial value would be just empty new promise return, which will resolve itself like this. Ooh, comma again. And then pass it down as a value over here. That should do it. Perfect. That means now if I click on load more, it still doesn't work. I have to go to root.tsx, and where I have load more button and handle load one more, I have to call that function, the handle fetch function that we are passing down. So let's destructure that out of our context API. So I call it handle fetch. There we are. And load one more, handle fetch. I'll pass true. That means yes, do give me the next item. Go ahead and save. Let's try it out. Perfect. So it is loading one more, and now the problem is that it is just giving me that one more rather than the previous ones. It's not adding to it, so it's not appending. So let's make that change. I'll go back to contact context, and if I scroll up where I do my set context, I do have to make that same modification with load one more. If load one more is true, do something else, where if it's not true, just continue you doing your previous business logic where you override the array. In this case, it's true, so I'll start a new array, and previous contacts will be spread out, and the new contacts will be spread out as well. There we are, save that. This should make that function work. There we are, and now I can load more. Let's make one more change. I do want this button to go away when more of 0. That makes no sense. So when the total is 0, don't show this button anymore. So let's quickly use total. If total equals 0, or actually not equals 0, let's make that not equals 0, then render this button out. Otherwise, don't render it out. Let's save that. If I go back to my drawer, it's gone. Let me refresh it. Let's just try it out. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. It's working beautifully. Let's do one more test where now I have filtered out some of the comments. So like say I want to search for contacts with name JU. There should be 2. So that means my number should change here. There we are. So there's only one more that I can load here. And there we go. Pagination is working along with filters. I'll see you all in the next video.